Alright guys, welcome back to OMLN4 Law Tournament for the 4th edition. And we are in for the round 32, round 16 weekend, and this is actually gonna be a surprisingly seeds battle because it's going to be the 54th seed against the 64th seed, which you might not be expected to see in this late of a stage in the round of 16, but both of these players successfully beat at least one battle in their brackets, with yran actually achieving a very close match against their previous Russian player with Toyu. And Crimzenite has been not showing up anything, has been showing up one match and then it forfeit, so he did win one match and then lose by a default. So it's back to another match, and he is here this time, so it will be the first time he see Crimzenite actually playing a match. And I am here today, Yongin, and joining me today, he did commentate in last hour, which is going to be Snow. Hello, how are you doing?
Hello, I am doing quite well. Pretty excited for this match, especially like you said, these seeds are pretty close, and I did commentate for yran's first match, so I do know a little bit about them, at least. Crimzenite, I'm not too familiar with in terms of a tournament setting, but I do know them as a player just a little bit.
Yeah, he is kind of a bit of a mystery player. When I go on his profile, he only has like 20 friends, which considered to as a player who only has 20 friends who made it to a big stage, as basically the same as a random Japanese making to a taiko tournament you have never heard of. So props to you that you did show up to everyone, that you're actually a very strong player, and good to see you at least able to play a match in round 16 this weekend. And we are going to see the protect out, coordination 3 being protected by Crimzenite, so a density player. I would say both of these players actually play a bit of a density sort of a player. yran is going to be protecting CO3 as well, and yran is going to be banning out density 1, and Crimzenite is banning out technical 3.
I think these make sense on paper. I mean, given that we see... No, actually no. I thought Crimzenite protected Coordination 3, but look at it. It's a little bit confusing, but I would have expected if we were gonna see something similar to Density 1 be banned. Maybe it would have been Coordination 1 instead, but maybe it's just not in their comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say yran is definitely a bit weaker on some of the more weighted releases picks. They struggled quite a bit in the qualifiers as well, and despite his, I would say his rank in general on the qualifiers maps, he's actually did quite well in comparison on some of the more less technical picks, some of the like density picks. He usually does quite well on. So kind of surprising to see him banning out Density 1 as well. But we're going to see our first map being selected from Crimzenite, and it's going to be Technical 2, TE2 pick. And this is going to be the shield focus map of the pool. It's a MSG meme once again, guys.
Can never escape that. But yeah, I do like how you opened us up into this pick. Like I said, it is going to be our shieldly focused one, which it's going to be interesting because I would say traditionally, at least picks that maybe focus on shields, especially as we kind of get later into these matches, they tend to be a bit of a more choke heavy type of file, given that these shields start to come faster and faster. It just gets ever so slightly harder to coordinate all of that.
Yeah, we basically never done with these type of MSG jerks. We'll be on to the actual match now. yran did quite weak on the qualified stage 4, which is very shield focused. There's a lot of shield doms. I wouldn't exactly say this map is similar in that way, but it does require a lot more shield handle in the chorus and such. But before that, it's all about your consistency for 3 minutes, and the start of the map is a bit more kind and generous. It's easier in this regard, but already we're seeing a lot of accuracy drops from Crimzenite, down to 98%, and that's not a good head start from him.
Yeah, it looks like they're releasing a lot late in general. I wonder if maybe it might be a scroll speed issue, maybe it's a skin issue, or maybe they're just not comfortable with this type of file. But yran, I do know, has been quite consistent within at least some of their matches, so maybe they might be playing the consistency game, and potentially this could be where they're able to shot in.
I do believe both players may not be the most comfy on some of these like releases type of stuff, so maybe not the best head start or the best pick here from Crimzenite, already dropping a lot of accuracy, and it's 20,000 points, 20k points difference between two teams, and we're onto the hard parts of the map starting here soon, where the map gets more denser, but yran already has a very good lead of about 22,000 points difference, not slowing down. Seemingly, he's going to take the first breakpoint of the match.
Yes, really strong accuracy coming from yran. I mean, typically people within like these ranges, you would expect them to be struggling just a little bit, but just showing off how strong they are and potential candidate for these later matches. They just have to get past this first match first, though, as Crimzenite is struggling just a little bit on that accuracy side. Bit unfortunate on their side, but it is only the first pick, and maybe like you said, maybe they might just be warming up. Potentially they could just be unwarmed.
Yeah, this is quite not quite a weak start, I should say, for Crimzenite. Usually I watch a lot of Mania matches. I'm not the most familiar with them, but I rarely see 98% even occurred. So not exactly the best head start from him, and yran will be taking the first pick quite a strong lead. And I'll say this is probably one of the first lead that we saw, biggest lead we have saw in the entire tournament. yran showing that they are not seed 64 at all.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of power, especially for being that seed, especially maybe just choking those qualifiers. So I'm excited to see how they do on the rest of this match. I'm going to hope that Crimzenite is able to pick up just a bit more. That's good, looking a little bit scary, but who knows? Maybe there's just a lot more happening that we don't know. I mean, both these players still performing well. I believe both of them. Oh no, I think Crimzenite holding the FC. I could be wrong though.
Instantly selected from wildcard 1 from yran, and this is the BPM change pick, and I mean you see Froms and you know this map is very awkward. It actually features back in French nationals. The SR is extremely high, but it's kind of quite inflated. It gets quicker and quicker in the end, but it does not pick up too much in terms of density, despite the BPM speeds up by a lot. And the highest BPM session also ends very quickly, so it doesn't give a lot of stamina to players, especially given how short that session is. But players just need to be careful about some of these BPM changes and might drop a lot of scores if they are unaware of it. And also a lot of short errors and some roll patternings, back and forth shields, and transitions between rolls and shields for the entire map. And it's quite dense for a wildcard pick. Compared to all the non-density picks, I would say this is definitely one of the densest out of all.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like how you put it there. I mean, this pick just being so awkward in general. Like you said, it has a lot of these kind of, I guess, like mini transitions between a lot of like these like two different skill sets, between these like rolly staggered releases and then these shield-based patterns. And starting us off, we do get into kind of a mix of both. We're looking to have a little bit of a rough start, so maybe opposite ends for both of these players. And it looks like Crimzenite's starting to get back their accuracy, so potentially this could be their chance to really capitalize on this match now.
Yeah, starting on the head start, we got a bit of some more jacks. It does give a bit of a trouble to players in terms of physicality control, but it's not the highest in terms of physicality after all. But yran's doing quite well on that regard, 99.59%. Crimzenite does pick back a bit accuracy, but still showing a bit weaker compared to the rest of the players. Has dropped 200 left and right after a few seconds, down to 99.13%. Also not the best ratio, rarely getting a lot of Rainbow 300s. The map does transitions from this part onwards. It's going to be a bit of a break session right here, but players still need to be careful, especially after this part.
Yeah, this part just being kind of awkward, having that finger control aspect, so definitely not a big area to have a huge break, but we're slowly getting into the section, which is speeding up ever so slightly into the next section, which is going to go into these really weird releases.
And here it comes. This is a weird part of the song, you cannot hear what is the snapping in behind, but thankfully most of the snappings in this map is still a bit more consistent than what you saw compared to what you expect from the song. Not a lot of those like weird effect soundings, and the accuracy practically just did not change at all. Not any drops from yran. They did not miss a lot. They drop a 200 over there, a bit of a misjudgment, but they need a miss to miss right now to give it back to Crimzenite, or it's gonna be a breakpoint secured.
Yeah, especially as for like in this section, which just transitions between these shields and like these little mini bursts, but it looks like it's gonna catch Crimzenite just a bit off guard. Not dropping their act the most, but definitely dropping it by just a little bit, extending that lead ever so slightly on the side of yran, giving them the point that they were looking for.
As the map pool gets harder, I do believe we start to see some cracks for some of our players. Crimzenite slowly falling apart compared to yran, I would say. yran, despite dropping a lot of hard and difficult maps in the qualifiers weekend, but I would say their weakness is more focused on the weird releases part, such as like unexpected low score on some of you say on stage 1, which is most high skill cap players would most players with high skill cap players also able to eat up those type of maps as well. But I would say yran's probably a bit weaker on that regard, so probably avoiding some of the more technical picks here, and we're gonna see the dogs being released. It's a Snoop Dogg map.
This is an interesting pick coming from Crimzenite. I don't know if I like it too much, especially kind of given how the last 2 picks went and those having like a bit of a technical aspect in terms of like the releases. This one not being too different. It still has like a lot of these like weird patterns and even these like finger control patterns near the ending, which can be easy to drop on. I would have expected maybe something along the lines of Density, but I guess we'll see how this one goes.
Unfortunately, our opponent is also that good and on those density picks. I mean, sometimes we do see players just picking just because of the song. I would say the song is quite funny compared to the rest of the it's so different compared to everything else. So some players may just pick because of that. But for now, this is actually remaining a pretty close fight. Only a 0.2% difference between these 2 players, which has been the closest we have been since the start of the match.
Yeah, it's definitely close, like you said. Although I do worry about how these later sections are going to play out, just given how technical some of these releases can be with these staggered releases. It gives me a lot of worry on the side of Crimzenite, especially given that this is his pick. But like I said, it's his pick. Maybe he knows something that we don't. We just have to wait and see.
Yeah, after all, this is still the most dance required, physical requirements and dance compared to all the other picks and density map as well, similar to Density 1, even though it focuses more on LN density. But we do see a miss from Crimzenite right before. I do believe it's slide break from here. I'm not too sure, but it does give a strong 9,000 point lead and probably extend to a 5-digit lead as accuracy being dropped from Crimzenite as well.
Yeah, the accuracy not even dropping that much like I would have thought. But here we go into this section where the patterns are going to become just a lot more trickier. We're going to start seeing these pseudo inverse sections where the finger control aspect starts to become so much heavier.
Yeah, very funny sessions with all of like rollies start on all these Lonuts. And I would say it's definitely the main part of the map it has and might call up players. We'll see how all players hold on that session, but these 2 players are holding that quite session quite strong. Only a bit of an accuracy drop from Crimzenite again, and this is a very strong hit from yran. It's looking like a very dire situation for Crimzenite. Knowing that he's probably more of a type of a density player, but losing out some of these like more denser maps after all, probably back against the walls.
Yes, that's very, very scary situation to be in, especially just given that yran's been so consistent throughout this entire match. I mean, we saw earlier, Crimzenite did get a slider drop at the beginning, so it really is just coming down to that consistency by just a little bit, although yran still has that accuracy advantage, so it's just hard to kind of catch up in this type of situation, at least.
Yeah, he might have to change a bit of a direction of the picks, going for possibly the opponent's weakness, which I would definitely say is coordination 1, technical 1 type of maps. But other than that, I don't think they have many of choice. We do see Ryan going for the weird pick here, coordination 2. Expected they would go for some of more density picks, but instead they're gonna go for, I would say, possibly not some of their best skill set. I might be wrong in that regard because after all, I'm not the best Mania player, but that seems like quite a bit of a possibly risky pick, but we'll see how this turns out. I would say this does follow up to coordination 3 in the period stage though, and a lot of anti-flow anchors and shield for the entire map.
Yeah, I definitely see how it could be a bit of a risky pick, although I think just given how Renner's been performing on the 2 wildcards that have been chosen, I don't think this one plays out that badly for them, especially just given the victory that they had in terms of like these shield type gameplay and then these like awkward releases, which Crimzenite's having just a bit of trouble when it just comes to those releases, and I think that's just going to be the main part of Wyron's ability to just stay on top.
You see the Seed 64 player is not dropping that much. After all, obviously this pick is like really difficult, a lot of weird shield, and those shields gonna call Vyron, and the lead instantly flips to Crimzenite. First time we see the lead favorite towards the red side and also the left side, and now on halfway point of the map. This map is not that dense, so it's very hard to build up combo, and Crimzenite already built up a very strong lead at the middle of the map.
Yeah, and I guess those words really starting to come back where you said that this could have been a risky pick, and it seems like it is starting to become a risky one, especially as Crimzenite's actually having an accuracy advantage for the first time in this match so far. Could this potentially be where they're able to start to make a comeback?
This will be huge for the highest seeded player and might be stopping the rampage of the Seed 64 player. 99.41% on this map, not the best, but after all this map is just very gimmicky, very weird to play. It's very hard to hold on very high accuracy, and we do see his ratio. That seems like he scored a lot more high ratio compared to the rest of the maps, and it's going to be benefit him this map and able to catch up the first point of the match. But after all, that miss on the shield from Vyron hurts him the most, especially the map being not dense at all.
Yeah, definitely a point that Crimzenite really wanted, and even having the better grade count, which I don't think they've done in these other picks, so kind of just solidifying that kind of accuracy advantage that they kind of got, but the ratio still being quite far for both of these players, so Crimzenite's definitely not out of the gate just yet. They have to be so careful when going into these next picks, and especially given that I think it's their pick as well right now, and I'm thinking, given how this went, maybe go for the last wild card, maybe go for coordination 3.
And they're gonna go for the pack that they ordered beforehand, and it's gonna be density 3, a completely different direction than what we see on the last map. I mean, probably makes sense because Vyron only lost that pick by having a very unfortunate miss, like a huge miss on the shield there, dropping two 100s and also 2 miss on that, and really drops his score by a lot, especially that map being very short. So Crimzenites take an advantage on that, going for the real physicality map of the pool. 210 BPM, we does start with 190 BPM, but the 190 BPM is not the real part of the map. 210 with LM stairs are the hardest part of the map. Those transition is very easy to cut off players, and it does benefit players who have more physicality.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned the miss from the shields, because I was going to point out that there's also one section within this file that does have a little bit of a shield transition, so potentially that could benefit Crimzenite just a little bit more, and oh my, that accuracy has really developed, and it could just been that maybe they just weren't warmed up, and maybe now they're starting to get into the flow of things as this pick becomes the closest one we've seen so far flickering back and forth as we get through these patterns that are so speedy and awkward at times.
I do see though a lot of the release on this map is quite on the regular snap side. They are very clean, very rigid, rather than most of the map we saw so far that they are weird. And this might benefit Crimzenite in this regard. Looking like he's more of a strict forward player, dealing with some of these strict forward maps very well. But same could be said about yran. I mean, he's doing very strong as well in that regard and winning by a tiny bit of a ratio lead. But this is definitely the closest accuracy we have seen so far for the entire match. And it might be down to the final shoot transition and the shoots and the stairs.
And as you say that, the tide's starting to turn back to the side of Crimzenite, as yran does get a little bit of a miss as we are continuing through these density sections, clicking back up into that combo range, but they do have the accuracy advantage, so it's starting to help them out by just a little bit. Looking very scary for Crimzenite, especially given that yran's been a bit consistent and hasn't really had messy misses, so I don't know if there's enough time for it to pick back up on his side.
I think that's going to be it. They passed the hardest part of the map. It's going to be FC, but still losing the map.
It was definitely a good fight, and a miss coming at the slider drop, actually. Maybe Percy, I'm not too sure, but it was still a good fight on the side of Crimzenite. Just a bit unfortunate but that the accuracy isn't in his favor. But that will bring it to match point for yran. And going immediately into Tech 1. I think this is a good choice. I mean, we did see how some of these other weirder releasey files have kind of gone. And I think this one might play out maybe something similar to Wildcard 3, just given that that one did have a lot of those like strange releases, and maybe I guess actually I was going to say maybe with these other picks, but none of these other picks really go into that kind of like technical aspect in terms of the releases, so gonna be interesting to see how this one plays out. But yran definitely does have a lot of room to kind of experiment with their picks, especially given that they are in match point. But here we go, starting us off. Well, these players doing relatively okay. Looks like yran just having a little bit of a messy start. But we'll have to see if Crimzenite able to hold that lead that they have, at least for now. The accuracy definitely not the worst, but we have seen it drop as we kind of continue on through these picks. So I wouldn't say they are safe just yet, but they also do need to kind of stay consistent in case yran does miss. They've been missing on the last few picks, so it's definitely not out of the gate in terms of what to expect. But we did see the last pick and how it went with that accuracy advantage still being important. And it looks like Crimzenite is going to be holding it for now, as these releases haven't gotten into the strangest sections that they have just yet. We're slowly building up into it, and this is where we're going to start to really see who has the big lead, as it's still just flickering between these players and it's just so close. Here we go, getting into this next section. yran is having a little bit of an advantage, but it looks like it's slowly just getting less and less as we go by. Especially as we're more than halfway through this file, we start to see a lot of these like weirder patterns, and you start to see why this is a tech pick. The Crimzenite's really starting to drop. The accuracy's really going down as they're starting to hit just a lot later. It's just unfortunate, as there just isn't really much that he can really do at this moment. All that he can do is that yran gets maybe a miss in these sections, especially as we do see some of these mini shields kind of come in every now and then. So maybe a choke point for yran, but as we're continuing off, it does look like Crimzenite is just going to be lowering that accuracy little by little, and looks like the match might just be closing in right now as we're getting into these final few notes. And just like that, yran is going to be getting their final point needed to get that win. The Rangers being so close, it really just came down to the grade count, which it is unfortunate on the side of Crimzenite, especially as this is a loser's bracket match, so they will unfortunately be knocked out of the tournament. My other commentator having a little bit of issues, so a bit unfortunate on that side as well, but that will conclude this match, and that will conclude the next few matches, at least for a few hours. The match that was supposed to be happening in about 35 minutes did end in a win by default. So since that way, we'll be facing the winner of, I believe, Dark Chaser, and let me just check who the other opponent is. Dark Chaser versus Polymer. So stay tuned for that match. I believe it is going to be on at 19 UTC. So definitely a match that you're not going to want to miss. The winner of this match, Byron, will be facing Unitori, which happened an hour ago. Yeah. So just wait until, I believe, 3.5 hours, and we'll be having our next match, which is going to be with our streamer, funny enough, Kankale versus Famo. Definitely going to be a very exciting match to see. Two very strong players facing in round of 16 already. Commentator back, but I don't know. Do you have anything else to say?
That was a very exciting match. I'm sorry I could not be here for the last minute, but whatever. Stuff, it's like that. My PC does not like me at all. I guess, thanks to you all for watching this match.
Yeah, thank you for coming into this match. Thank you, Kankale, for streaming, and good luck in your match that is happening in a few hours.
Absolutely.
I will be Snow. I'll be signing out. And we'll be seeing you next time.
Goodbye.